Think about the last big game. Millions of people glued to screens. Strangers hugging each other in bars. Grown adults crying because 11 people they have never met lost a ball game. And somewhere in that chaos, maybe that somewhere is you, there was a person watching all of it, completely unmoved, not angry, not judging, just genuinely confused about why everyone else looks like their life depends on this. If that is you, I need you to stay with me. Because psychology has been quietly studying people like you. And what researchers found is not what most people expect. You are not broken. You are not emotionally flat. You are not missing something. Your brain is just built differently. And today, I want to show you exactly how. Here is something most people do not realize about sports fans. When someone watches their team play, their brain releases oxytocin. That is the bonding hormone. The same chemical your brain produces when you hug someone you love, when you hold a newborn baby, when you feel deeply safe with another person. Sports fans' brains are literally treating athletes they have never met like family. That is not irrational. That is ancient biology doing exactly what it was designed to do. For thousands of years, humans survived by belonging to tribes. Your tribe fed you, protected you, kept you alive through winters and wars. Your brain evolved to feel that tribal bond as something deeply real, something worth fighting for. Sports tapped into that wiring perfectly. The team colors, the chants, the shared enemy on the other side of the field's ends. It is all speaking directly to a part of the brain that is hundreds of thousands of years old. But here is the question nobody asks. What about the people whose brain simply does not respond to that signal? Psychologists have a term for it. They call it a rigid self-boundary. And it sounds clinical. But it is actually something fascinating. Most people draw their sense of self loosely. Their identity expands to include their family, their city, their country, and yes, their sports team. When the team wins, something inside them genuinely feels like they won. The brain does not experience it as watching someone else succeed. It experiences it as participating in something. But some brains draw that boundary differently. Tighter, more precise. If you are someone who does not connect with sports, your brain likely runs on what researchers call direct causality. It sends a very logical signal. I did not touch the ball. I did not make that decision. I had no part in this outcome. So why would I feel pride? This is not coldness. This is not a lack of passion. It is a brain that only registers outcomes it was actually part of creating. Your emotional system is wired for direct participation, not spectatorship. And that changes everything about how you experience the world. Let's talk about dopamine. Because this is where it gets really interesting. Most people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical. It is not. Not exactly. Dopamine is the anticipation chemical. It does not fire when you get the reward. It fires when you are waiting for it, when the outcome is uncertain, when anything could happen. Sports are basically dopamine machines. 90 minutes of not knowing. A goal that could come at any second. A final whistle that means everything or nothing. That uncertainty is what makes it so neurologically compelling. The brain cannot stop watching because it genuinely cannot predict what comes next. Research comparing sports watching to gambling found that the reward centers activated are strikingly similar. The unpredictability is the point. It is intermittent reinforcement, the most powerful motivational pattern the human brain responds to. But here is what this means for people who do not care about sports. Their dopamine system simply is not triggered by vicarious competition. Watching someone else play does not produce that chemical anticipation. And research suggests this may be partly genetic. Variations in dopamine receptor genes can influence how strongly someone responds to competitive spectator experiences. In other words, you might have been born this way, not broken, just calibrated differently. Now I want to say something, and I want you to actually hear it. If you do not care about sports, you still have passion. You still feel things deeply. You still have things that make your brain light up completely. You have just found different machines. A 2021 study found that people with low interest in sports scored significantly higher in something called openness to experience. They were more drawn to art, music, ideas, deep conversations, creative work. Their brains were seeking the same thing sports fans seek: meaning, intensity, connection, that feeling of being fully absorbed in something. They were just finding it somewhere else. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying what he called flow states. Those rare moments when you are so absorbed in something that time disappears and you feel completely alive. He found that flow can be triggered by almost anything. A game, a painting, a difficult problem, a piece of music that hits exactly right. Sports fans find flow in the stadium. Non-sports people find it somewhere quieter, somewhere more personal, somewhere that requires their own direct involvement rather than someone else performing for them. Neither is better. They are just different doorways into the same deeply human need. If this kind of psychology content connects with you, the kind that actually explains why you are the way you are, consider subscribing. There is a lot more coming that I think you will want to see. There is one more psychological layer here that almost nobody talks about. People who are not drawn to sports tend to invest their emotional energy differently in relationships. Sports fandom is built on what psychologists call parasocial bonds, one-sided emotional connections where you care deeply about people who do not know you exist. The athlete does not know your name. The team does not feel your loyalty, but you feel it completely. That is the nature of parasocial attachment. People who are not wired for sports fandom often find that kind of one-sided investment deeply unsatisfying. Their emotional energy wants reciprocity. They want to care about things that can care back. Relationships where their presence actually matters to the outcome. Conversations where their input changes something. This is not superiority. It is a different emotional architecture, one that pulls toward direct connection rather than shared spectacle. And here's what is interesting about that. These people often report feeling more present in their own lives. They are not spending 3 hours every Sunday experiencing someone else's story. They are building their own. They are inside their own narrative, not watching someone else's from the outside. There is something quietly powerful about that when you think about it. But let us be honest about something. Not caring about sports can sometimes come with its own psychological weight, because sport is social currency in so many cultures, especially here. You walk into a room on a Monday morning, and someone asks about the game, and you have nothing to say, and suddenly you are on the outside of something. Suddenly you are the person who does not fit the conversation. That experience of exclusion is real. And for some people, their indifference to sports is partly shaped by it. Maybe they were picked last. Maybe they felt shut out of that whole world early on, and the distance became a kind of protection, a way of not wanting what they felt they could not have. Psychology does not judge that. It just names it, because understanding where your patterns come from is not weakness. It is clarity. Here is what I want to leave you with. The world spends a lot of time trying to convince people who do not like sports that they are missing something essential, that they are incomplete somehow, that there is a cultural experience they are failing to participate in. But psychology tells a different story. Your brain is not missing the sports gene. It is just running a different program, one that finds its meaning, its intensity, its sense of belonging, somewhere more personal, somewhere that requires your actual presence to function. The sports fan needs the game to feel alive in a crowd. You just need something real. And maybe that is not a limitation. Maybe that is just who you are. If any part of this felt like it was describing you, drop it in the comments. I genuinely read them. And if you want more psychology that actually explains the way your mind works, subscribing takes 2 seconds, and it means more than you know. See you in the next one.